Hello fellows, it's Horse, and BHVR dropped their announcement for what's going into the PTB in the next week. There are a lot of controversial changes in this one, but I wanted to take a little bit longer to go over them and make a video instead of just giving my first knee-jerk reaction. I will be covering the good, the bad, and talk about how I expect each change to go. So without further ado, let's get into the August 2025 developer update for Dead by Daylight. The major points covered by this patch are an attempt to garner a reduction to slugging and tunneling. If you don't know, slugging is when you're left on the ground as a survivor without being picked up, and tunneling is when the killer goes after the same survivor over and over and over again instead of spreading chases out evenly amongst all 4 survivors. These do feel pretty bad to experience as survivor if you're not prepared for them. We will begin at the proposed slugging update. From what we see here, survivors will be gaining 2 perks base kit to an extent. Unbreakable after being left on the ground for 90 seconds, as well as the ability to recover on the ground while moving, similar to tenacity, but without the speed of the perk. This effect of recovery will also happen passively instead of having to hold a button like you currently do. Several perks for both killer and survivor are both planned to be updated, but as of right now, we do not have any specific information on those. I do want to clarify that while I have literally brought up this exact thing as a good idea in the past, right here, I specifically mentioned that base kit Unbreakable would only be put into the game in dire situations, and that base kit Tenacity would only be the being able to move and recover at the same time part of it. I no longer think base kit Unbreakable is necessary, seeing as the abandoned feature has been added since then, and if all 4 survivors are on the ground in 99% of scenarios, the game is over. I do think that the base kit moving and recovering is fine. However, Unbreakable is an incredibly game-changing perk and should not be made base kit in any scenario. Slugging is not something that happens commonly enough after the knockout changes, and even being able to move and recover at the same time is already an immense buff for being able to reposition yourself and allow for resetting without the killer knowing your location if they wander off looking for somebody else. It makes slugging significantly more difficult for free. I expect the base kit Unbreakable part of this to be removed entirely after the PTB, and the tenacity thing will probably stay. The base kit Unbreakable is unnecessary and is a punishment to killers, twins and Oni especially, who have to slug just to use their power, or allowing for coordinated survivors to simply abuse the sabotage mechanic, or hovering for pallet saves forever. What do you do if the killer can't pick you up because you either have another survivor in range to get the pallet save, and you can just pick yourself up in a little bit anyways? Lose-lose scenarios suck and should not be implemented in the 9th year of Dead by Daylight. The tenacity thing, that's completely fine. It alleviates the issue of slugging, in my opinion, and you still get agency on what you want to do while downed if you're not getting picked up. The next major update being proposed in this PTB is one to reduce tunneling. There are a lot of changes here, so bear with me. For starters, when a killer hooks a survivor, the hook status will be hidden from the killer, and unhook notifications are to be removed, along with the hook status not being revealed straight away. Next, unhooked survivors will gain the status effects of haste, endurance, and a new status effect called elusive, which silences grunts of pain, suppresses survivor aura, pools of blood, and scratch marks. These unhooked survivors will also have no collision with other players, both killer and survivor, immunity to killer instinct, and be able to see the killer's aura nearby. All of these effects, except haste and endurance, which is what we have now with the borrowed time base kit mechanic, will be disabled once the exit gates are powered. And for the killer side of things, there will now be a unique effect on the killer's overlay that shows which survivor they hooked last, after performing a new gameplay mechanic called a unique hook, where the last survivor is not hooked 2 times in a row. I'm sure there are plenty of jokes to be made about that. Killers will gain benefits. We do not currently know the numbers on any of these benefits, and the numbers will make a difference on whether or not this is a sink or swim type of chapter. Killers will receive bonus damage on their next generator kick, a temporary haste, and an aura reveal on all survivors that have less hook states than the survivor that was just hooked. So a survivor that was hooked 1 time will reveal everyone with 0. A survivor that has been hooked 2 times will reveal every survivor that has not been hooked, and survivors that have been hooked once, and a survivor that is killed on hook, their 3rd hook, will reveal everyone else in the trial. And this reveal effect is also going to have lessened effects for certain killers. The Blight, Dark Lord, Ghoul, Hillbilly, and Nurse. S tiers, essentially, the best of the best. This aura reveal effect will also be disabled once the exit gates are powered, and several perks that we have not yet been told will be updated to accommodate for this. Lastly, if a survivor dies before 6 6 total hook states, all remaining survivors gain a repair speed bonus for the rest of the trial. This is another thing that we need to see a number on, but I'll talk more about it later. However, the 6 hook change also introduces the line that if the survivor that was last hooked is sacrificed or killed, generators cannot be regressed or blocked. This is a really bad change. I'm not gonna be able to put it more succinctly than that. That is a pretty big change, but we'll cover that later as well. My first thoughts on this, just going down the list, is that I have to admit my own personal bias. I am not a killer player that particularly cares about playing to win. I play to have fun, and this change will adapt my playstyle just fine because I don't usually tunnel on purpose. I don't really care if I get 4 kills. I do like this idea where if a survivor is on hook, it's hidden, so you can't really see what's going on, but again, it's going to be something that the numbers make or break. Is it 5 seconds after unhook? 10? 15? 30? We don't know yet, and therefore we cannot fully judge it until we get our hands on it next week. Now, for the unhook bonuses for survivors, I think that these come from a good place, but are a tad overtuned. Currently, survivors get haste and endurance for 10 seconds. That's fine, that's perkless, that's base kit. I started playing the game when base kit borrowed time was not a thing, and it was terrible. You would get unhooked, you would get hit by the killer, and you would get instantly hooked again. That was awful. I'm glad that we have base kit borrowed time. But we do not yet know the time that the new elusive effect will last. I assume it's going to be the base 10 seconds with the endurance and the haste. That's probably fine. But the problem with elusive as a status effect is that it isn't just a base kit iron will. It's base kit off the record and lucky break for 10 seconds. Hiding scratches and blood and sound is very strong to give away base kit. And it currently requires a player performing an unhook to run a perk, such as Babysitter from Steve or Come and Get Me from Rick, which allows for survivors to actually be altruistic and work as a team to get each other out of the trial. However, this is, again, another thing that we'll need to see the times and the numbers and the everything else on, because it could potentially be a nothing burger or it could potentially be a massive issue. A lot of these things need numbers attached for full judgment. As with the unique hook mechanic for killers, I think overall this will be healthy for the game. It's a carrot to incentivize not going after the same person over and over and over again, and getting a bonus base kit regression, bonus haste, and the reveal of all other survivors is very nice as far as carrots go. But as it is mentioned to be similar to barbecue in this very patch, I think that it also needs to include a killer instinct effect, because that is something that cannot be hidden via survivors perks or gameplay at the moment. When barbecue was incredibly well run perk due to its unique double blood point gain effect from getting 1 hook on every survivor, survivors knew to hide in a locker if a down happened far enough away from them to avoid the aura read. If this happens again and this new thing is added, the killer simply loses all information they would gain while trying to play fair in the game's own eyes. Killer instinct is currently unavoidable, and it would be nice to include. Now, what I do find good about this current hook mechanic is that the effect is going to be lessened for S tiers, the very strong, the top of the top. While inconsequential, of course, until we get the specifics of their numbers and effects, it is a good sign that BHVR is experimenting with buffing or nerfing things based on the strength of specific killers. Nurse is a significant bottleneck for how perks work, because something that might be good on a killer would be game breaking on Nurse. Throwback to Awakened Awareness Starstruck Nurse, when her blink was something that could insta-down you with exposed. Yeesh. Now, for the final part of this section on tunneling, a survivor dying, nerfing the killer for winning. This one I feel is genuinely a major misstep. If you play Pig and you get a lucky head pop, or Sodico, and you put in enough effort to get a base kit Mori, and you kill someone, they're gone. 3 hooks straight away just like that. You're now losing. This, I believe, should be completely turned around and is not a fair thing to add. If you were dying before 6 hooks and your teammates aren't helping you, wouldn't that be a better time to kind of coax the other survivor players towards working as a team and assisting their teammate instead of leaving them to die? Why are we implementing a reward for substandard play and not working as a team on the team-based role? This, as well as the anti-tunnel mechanics in general, are going to overly punish specific subsets of killers, such as trap killers, like Trapper or Hag or Skull Merchant, that cannot choose who they go after. They are forced into chasing whoever runs into their traps. And while not getting to the real root of the problem on what the issue with these immeasurably strong killers is, a weaker killer like Trapper does have to go after someone they unhooked, while a Blight or a Nurse, one of of the stronger killers, has a chase power that's so fast it doesn't even matter who they go after in 99% of their games, because they can just stack 4 slowdown perks and win for free. The 6 hook change also introduces the line that we talked about earlier, that if the survivor that was last hooked is sacrificed or killed, generators cannot be regressed or blocked. This, on top of the increased gen speed for survivors when a survivor dies, is just, it's really bad. If you, as a weak killer, happen to get a kill by going after someone twice in a row, you can no longer use your regression perks. There is no way that this makes it to live servers. But again, I've also said this in the past, and current day's clown made it to live servers, so who knows? My take on the changing of the anti-tunnel in general is currently that anti-tunnel perks in Dead by Daylight are extremely powerful. Off the record, exhaustion perks, decisive strike, all of this combined against anything below S tiers, wielded by a semi-competent survivor, is, ironically, a death sentence for killers. An unhooked survivor can use their anti-tunnel offensively, stop you from going after someone else, and then abuse these very strong perks to get away again. Unless this upcoming PTB is something that severely nerfs the power of anti-tunnel in favor of giving it more to the base kit, which would be okay, this is going to be a really bad change for any killer that dares to play anything below A tier. Now, the final major update is to Michael Myers. His power is changing from what it is currently to a stance toggle, where he has 3 modes. Stalker mode, which is 4.2 meters a second, undetectable, and has the ability to stalk you. And Pursuer mode, which moves at 4.6 meters a second, has a 24 meter tear radius, increased vault speed, lunge, break speed, and stun recovery, and cannot stalk survivors. But once you stalk enough in the Stalker mode, a third mode, Evil Incarnate, can be triggered at will. In the new Evil Incarnate, Michael's move speed will be the default 4.6 meters a second, have a 40 meter tear radius, and increased vault speed. He will gain a new ability called Slaughtering Strike, which is essentially Pig Dash that insta-downs. On top of this, there is no longer a limit for how much you can stalk individual survivors, the stalk range and distance modifier has been removed, and moving while stalking is faster, but it goes slower as far as increasing your bar. And, of course, they're going to be doing an add-on rework, which is great. If you were worried about Tombstone, aka my teammates got looked at for too long and now I'm out of the game 2 minutes in, grabbing and killing survivors, that is going to be made base kit, but only for survivors on Death Hook. So you cannot just get one shot 2 minutes into the game. My honest take on this is that while there are the jokes of dash slop and every killer moving towards mobility of some sort, I think that Michael Myers kind of needs this, because Michael Myers is just an incredibly binary, somewhat boring killer with no skill expression that can just remove someone from the game because of poor add-on design. As well as the add-on pass, which he sorely needs, and he is going to be getting. I think that this patch will be good, but again, we need to see said add-ons and what they end up doing with it, and try out the ability for ourselves before we can make any real judgments on it. For the other killers, there are minor updates to Clown and Oni, medium updates to the Unknown, Dracula, and the Ghoul, and we're going to cover the smaller ones first and then get into the mediums. Starting with the Clown. Clown is getting a longer activation time to his Afterpiece Antidote, and the Afterpiece Tonic is going to last longer. So his yellow bottles essentially are going to have to take more foresight to aim, and you have to think to use them and place them, and the pinks will last longer. As of the Walking Dead patch, Clown was made into a haste monster with his yellows activating nearly instantly, and this patch looks like it's going to tow him back in line. Again, we don't know numbers, which is something we'll hopefully get more on soon, but I tentatively want to say that this is going to be a good change. As for Oni, Oni is going to be receiving more blood orbs upon hooking a survivor. That is literally it. We don't know how many orbs, but this is a flat buff for Oni, but the anti-slug in its current state is going to hurt him a lot if the unbreakable part especially goes through. We also don't know how many more orbs he's going to get. He currently gets 2, and they say more, so does that mean he's going to get 3, or does that mean he's going to get 5? Something we need to know. So I guess we're just going to wait for a while. Now, the Unknown is having a medium update. It is actually a pretty good set of stuff, flat buffs across the board. It is going to be having additional time added to the weakened state when it shoots a survivor with its projectile and injuring them with it. It will be receiving increased movement speed recovery time after teleporting, increasing the camera's vertical range, and getting some add-on adjustments. This is all very solid. Unknown is in a very weak spot at the moment, and it feels that if you play Unknown and you miss a single shot, you have to shoot them 2 more times to even try to injure them. It feels pretty bad, and all of this seems to be pretty helpful. The camera work especially is something that I know Unknown players have been asking about for a long time. And while we don't know what the add-on changes will be yet, which would be really nice to put in the patches, by the way, this overall seems to be a net positive for the Gunkle. Dracula is going to be getting a significant amount of changes, some for each form. Bat form's patch note literally just says it's going to be easier to control now, so we'll see on that one when it comes out. Wolf form is going to be having its pounce attack charge time nerfed and scent orb spawn time also nerfed. By how much? Who knows? Vampire form is going to be getting a shorter Hellfire cooldown, receiving an extra Hellfire Pillar base kit, and nerfing the speed that it charges at, while also slightly increasing the slowdown time after casting Hellfire. Again, these are all kind of nothing burger changes without the numbers, and it's pretty frustrating to receive so many changes in a patch without any numbers that actually tell us what slightly or increased actually mean, but we will probably hear more soon. Now for the ghoul. This is actually a big one as far as ghoul's likability while you're playing him as a survivor. There is this tech where if the ghoul were to grab you in a certain way with his power, it would lock you in place near a vault and you would just be prevented from making distance while he vaults it for free. This is simply being removed. It was called the kidnap tech. It felt like BS to experience, and ghoul players also wanted it removed because it was extremely unfair and part of why many community members disliked the ghoul. And that's pretty much it. That's the final part of the patch. They're updating perks as well. We don't know how many or what perks, but it is implied to be perk slowdown and anti-tunnel perks. Overall, this patch has some good ideas, but a lot of them, even on paper, are just not great. I do like that BHVR is experimenting more, and this is definitely one of the biggest patch ideas that they put forth as of yet, aside from the 40-ish perk meta shakeup a while back, but providing numbers with dev updates would help alleviate a lot of panic that happens around these changes being announced. Hopefully, we find out more soon, but that's all for now. Thanks for watching.